podcast to honor the gods.
This better come with a sacrifice.
Dave X Media.
There were too many goodbyes. That night was the first time I actually saw camp burial shrouds used on bodies, and it was not something I wanted to see again. Among the dead, Lee Fletcher from the Apollo cabin had been downed by a giant's club. He was wrapped in a golden shroud without any decoration. The son of Dionysus, who'd gone down fighting an enemy half-blood, was wrapped in a deep purple shroud embroidered with grapevines. His name was Castor. I was ashamed that I'd seen him around camp for 3 years and never even bothered to learn his name. He'd been 17 years old. His twin brother Pollux tried to say a few words, but he choked up and just took the torch. He lit the funeral pyre in the middle of the amphitheater, and within seconds, the row of shrouds was engulfed in fire, sending smoke and sparks up to the stars.
Welcome to Of the Oldest Gods, where we discuss Rick Riordan's role as our godly parent.
I'm Raye from Cabin 12.
And I'm Charlie from Cabin 13.
And I'm Phoebe from Cabin... Oh god, wait. Which cabin is Hades?
Already forgot. 13.
13, okay. And I'm Phoebe
Amazing.
from Cabin 13.
And I'm Emily from Cabin... Oh god, was it 9?
10.
10.
10.
From Cabin 10.
This is going really well.
I love this.
I'm not a numbers person, okay?
I think I can remember up to like 15, maybe 16.
It's because you're a crazy person.
I can't believe I didn't remember that Hades is Cabin 13 when I literally have the Cabin 13 hat.
Oh, I'm so jealous right now. I'm so jealous. Anyway, getting out of the spoiler territory, well, we're so happy to have both hosts from Monster Donut here finally.
Yeah.
We've had on Emily before, and now we have on Phoebe
Gotta
as
catch
well. Yay!
Yeah. Oh.
Of course, Percy Jackson podcasters. We're like Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
So, Phoebe, can you give us a little bit about yourself, your pronouns, how you got into the series, and just, any other interesting facts?
Sure. My name's Phoebe, she, her. I came to Percy Jackson because my sister was assigned The Lightning Thief as summer reading back in like 2006. And she used to really struggle with reading. Like, it was really hard for her. And she hated The Lightning Thief so much that every time she finished a page, she would rip it out of the book. And
What? This is sacrilege.
I reached a point that summer where I was like, I need to know what this book is. So I picked it up one morning and basically read it all in one sitting, and then like talked about it with her as she kept going. And by the end of the summer, we both like ran to the bookstore to get Sea of Monsters Together, which had just come out. And so the books have been like our constant companion since then.
Oh, wow. So like at the beginning,
Yeah.
Sea of Monsters just came out?
It had just come out.
Jesus, 2006.
Yeah.
What was I doing back then? Nothing, actually. Literally nothing.
Was that 2006?
Yeah.
It was
'cause
2006, yeah.
First one was 2005, second one was 2006, right? I think they came out basically every year.
Yeah, I think my first... I think I own the hardcover of Titan's Curse, so I think that was the one that had just come out when I started reading them.
My hardcover is just Last Olympian.
Yeah, mine too.
And then every book since then has been hardcover, because I'm just like, I mean, why not? Just get them when they come out immediately.
Right, you have to. Or
I'm
the
not
entire
gonna
thing's
wait.
going to get spoiled for you.
Bye, Phoebe.
Oops.
On Tumblr.
Right, that happened, didn't it? Which book was it that got spoiled for you?
Oh, well, I did have The Burning Maze spoiled for me on Tumblr, and I also did spoil large chunks of House of Hades on Tumblr for everyone else.
Wow, it just keeps happening. I mean, hey.
It's a cycle. It was karma. It was coming for me.
Literally. Spoiler karma. You spoiled someone, so you had to be spoiled for something else. There you go.
I remember. Yeah, no, you didn't spoil the burning. Phoebe is really good about, like, she'll, like, give you a book, and she'll be like, she's very good about tricking you into thinking what she wants you to think going in.
Oh?
So I don't think you spoiled Burning Maze for me. I think you kept it pretty coy, where you were like, yeah, people talk about this book a lot. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, this time we're not nearly that far in to everything. We're still
No.
only on book 4.
Yep.
My goodness. Raye, tell us what happened in this freaking chapter.
Alright, will do. Okay, so this is The Council Gets Cloven. I'm calling it Everybody Gets a Lot Cooler About Some Things All of a Sudden, but we start out here
Yeah.
with our campers are having a funeral for the fallen, including Lee Fletcher and Castor, Dionysus' son.
You know that character that's just been named now?
I'm sad about it personally, but
He wasn't named before this chapter.
No, they were. I remember. They were mentioned. It's
Were
like
they?
they were on, like, a list at some point. I swear this happened.
Percy says he didn't know the names, which makes me think that they weren't. That
Yeah.
they didn't have it before now.
Am I
They
making
definitely
this
said,
up?
like, Dionysus kids, but I don't think they said their names. Oh, Emily, be fact-checking.
Well, I'm looking at it, and I guess you're right. It does say that. Okay, maybe I just don't remember things. Which, you know,
We all get
we've learned.
confused.
It happens. It's okay.
The Council of Cloven Elders are predictably acting like dicks, and they try to exile Grover, but Dionysus gets home and vouches for him. In an unexpected turn, Grover ends up being a really great leader, so that's good.
Yay!
Rares
Good for the
leaves to
boy.
head off for Poseidon's Forges, but Tyson decides to stay on the land this year. Nico is feeling isolated and depressed, and we all decide that that's fine, and he leaves camp to go do some research.
I don't think it's fine.
Apparently, Percy thinks that's mostly fine. I'm also, once again, upset.
Well, fuck him.
Alright, Dionysus admits that Percy has been mildly competent this book, and he shows Percy that he healed Chris Rodriguez's brain. And I'm not sure if that's how it works, but okay. Thank you, Dionysus.
Dionysus he's just like trauma be gone. Like, that's it. That's his power.
I mean, it makes sense. He's like the god of
Yeah, and
madness,
just, like,
so, you know.
What does that do to your brain? Like, do you forget the things that traumatized you? Is it like a speed run of therapy?
Right.
Like,
They had a really good therapy session, actually. That's what happened. Listen, I have my whole thing, before later books came out and things were, said. I'm like, Dionysus may be the therapy god, because he's the god of madness, he's the god of mental health, and Apollo's the god of physical health.
right. You would want it to work that way, but I don't think that this Dionysus would be a good therapist.
I don't, well, yeah, not maybe in this part of his life, where he's the one
I
who's
don't think
depressed
at
all
any
day.
part of his life. I don't know. I will say before, I went on a bit of a deep dive on that Dionysus epic Wikipedia page before this.
Amazing.
Oh my god, it's zany.
Bro. You should listen to, like, an earlier episode of the pod where I first talked about Dionysus, and that's what I did. I just was like, Dionysus? You're like 15 different gods all mashed together. What is happening here?
It's like, I was
amazing.
like, wow, I didn't know someone could write something worse than the Aeneid. Yeah, here it is.
Wow! Throwing shade.
Remember that time that Dionysus invaded India? We like to forget about that.
It's bananas because, like, at that, like, again, they keep doing this. This is, like, the recurring theme in, like, ancient Greek literature where they're, like, they use, like, foreign, typically people from more Eastern cultures, like, represent, like, it's just, like, very problematic. And so, like, at the point it was written, this is, like, the fall of the Western Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire. It was either written when they're starting to reclaim all of their old heritage, or before, when everything was just a dumpster fire, and they were like, let's make ourselves feel better by remembering the glory days in which we went and colonized. Woo!
And we all know
Yay.
how great it is to remember the good old days.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I I personally like to view Dionysus as like, he's that bartender who will just like listen to your problems kind of therapist. That's how it goes for me. It's like,
right. World War II era therapist.
There you go.
That's what he was doing.
Yeah, while everybody else was like fighting, he was just like, I'm just gonna like sit here and let the soldiers talk to me and tell me their problems. Okay, well, we're gonna talk about the planned myth section. Although I'm pretty sure Emily's gonna go off on multiple tangents.
I don't have that much to say about this one. Like, honestly.
Oh, I have things to say.
Boy.
Okay.
I have things to say that aren't planned for my myth section, so... Okay, well, we're gonna do the thing in case you missed it, but so I'm talking about Castor and Pollux. They're people in mythology. Did you know this? Everybody's a fucking little guy today.
They are all little guys to me.
All right. Already we have like multiple names for them. This is the Gemini. They are the twins that we all know and love. Emily, feel free to like just jump in here when I'm just like going off because maybe you know more things than me.
I know aggressively medium things.
Beautiful. You know the trope of like the one twin dying. That's where this is where it comes from. Blame these two fucking guys. It's all their faults. So Pollux is also called Polydeuces. That name.
Yeah, the Pollux is like the Latin version of his name.
Yeah, that's like his nickname, I'm gonna say. If you want to just be quick about it.
The Latin or the Greek?
The shorter one, Pollux. I feel like that's the nickname, right?
Well,
yeah.
It's like, so Polydeuces is just like a very Greek, like they just shortened it to Pollux because there's also like an Etruscan. Okay, so we got a lot of the Greek alphabet, for example, like the Roman alphabet came from Greece via the Etruscans, and the Etruscans also have a version of this story where his name was like shorter. So I think it came from the Etruscans, which would have come from the Greeks originally, probably ? But
see, you say you know middling things, and yet you know more than me still.
I just love the Etruscans. They're great. Anytime they come up, I'm like, woo!
Amazing. Okay, so we also call them the Dioscuri. Like, together, that's what they are. But they're also the Castors, even though only one of them is named Castor. The Tindar... My goodness, can I not say words? Tindaridae. Okay, that's because of their dad, right? Tindarius? Yeah. Although it's only one of them's dad, because this is also one of my other favorite tropes in mythology, where you have twins, but one of them is the child of a god, usually Zeus, and the other one is the child of the mortal guy.
You know, the guy getting fucked.
I feel like...
Yeah.
I feel like this is a trope that Rick should have used. He hasn't used this one yet, where it's like, you got one half-blood, and then one not half-blood.
I feel like he has enough things that he has to explain about these people's family trees, and he doesn't want to complicate it any more than he has to.
But that would be so cool if you have a series like that where, like, the main characters, it's like these two twins, and one of them's like, I'm not actually a half-blood, but I'm here because that's my twin over there.
I would love this.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Like,
have you read
seriously.
Magic for Liars?
I have not. What is this?
Oh, it's such a good book. It's by Sarah Gailey, and it has very little to do with anything. But except for the fact that the protagonist, it's like a murder mystery set at like a magic school, but the protagonist is the sister of one of the faculty members who was born without magic, but she's a PI and knows magic exists, so they hire her to come in to investigate the murder.
That's fun.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's also pretty gay. It's a great book. 10 out of 10.
Hey, if it's gay, then it's good.
It's such a fun book, like a fun idea. I don't know, it explores this a lot in a fun way, so I like it a lot. It's adult though, by the way. It's not a kid's book.
This is fine. Okay, so Tindarius is the mortal dad, and then Zeus is the non-mortal dad. And then their mom is Lita, because, yeah, this is part of that swan thing.
Yeah.
I'm so confused if, were they born, they would have been born before Helen and Clytemnestra, right?
I think there's a few different origin ideas, but I think the idea is that the way it works in my brain is it's like two sets of fraternal twins. So you get Helen and Pollux are like the immortal ones, quote unquote, and they're fraternal twins. And then Clytemnestra and Castor are the mortal ones, and they're like another set. And like and like it's like they're all supposed to have been born from an egg or from eggs, or at least like Pollux and Helen are supposed to be born from eggs. So it's like Helen and Pollux are the children of Zeus, and the opposite. But like, explain how that works.
Yeah,
Don't know.
I just thought, like, I always thought that Castor and Pollux were supposed to be older than Helen and Clytemnestra too, so
That's
I don't know.
probably also another version. Again, they probably couldn't make up their minds, because I feel like every ancient author was like, how do I make this make sense?
It doesn't. That's the thing. It doesn't really make sense. So these two are the older brothers of Helen of Troy. If you caught that, yes, it's part of the Zeus turning into a swan thing. It's wonderful. You ever just turn into a swan and like fuck a lady? No, actually, I don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, I don't really understand the whole like polymorph animal and then like having children thing. Like that's
that happens sometimes though.
It happens a lot in Greek mythology. Like there's a lot.
It just is a lot, I think. Just like, why?
My favorite are the snake ones though, because I'm just like, how?
Oh my god.
Make it make sense.
We can't get into this.
We can't ask for this.
I will say,
someone will tell us.
Here's a fun fact, though. Speaking of the Byzantines, the Byzantine Emperor Justinian married it appears to be a love match between him and like basically an exotic dancer named Theodora. Power couple. Amazing. 10 out of 10. Obsessed with them. But Theodora was most famous for an act she did called Leda and the Swan, where she would like cover herself. Like it was like a whole thing she did. Like she was known for it.
Okay.
That's great.
I'm just gonna move on.
I mean, well, we hear that, but like our main like sources on Theodora are this one guy who despised her, and he like wrote like a tell-all book being like, this is the Daily Mail before the Daily Mail of Theodora's life.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, can you imagine if like that's like all history knows about you? Crazy stuff.
Wild.
Yeah, love her. We stan.
Well, onto these chaotic twins. Okay, so very weird stuff. There's so many pictures of them with horses. These are horse girls, actually.
That's apparently like the Indo-European origin of the like trope. There's I'm saying this like I know this off the top of my head. I don't. I looked it up, but
yeah, because there's the whole like thing about the twins. And also, like, the horses, and they're, like, patrons of travelers and sailors. And
you see them in Rome all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they apparently had a cult in Rome, which is fun. And they kind of became, like, a war battle god situation, too.
Good for them.
Yeah, they really had a good career, you know?
Yeah, well, let's talk about what they actually did. They participated in the Caledonian boar hunt. They were Argonauts. And you remember that time that Helen was abducted by Theseus when she was, like, a small child? They rescued her. This is why
brothers for the win.
Yeah, that's why I think that they might have been her big brothers. Like, what are these, like, 10-year-olds going to save their other 10-year-old sister?
Isn't it so much more fun to imagine if it's 10-year-olds going to save 10-year-olds?
I mean, that's a very Percy Jackson
I was going to say, that's
right?
1 year off from Lightning Thief Percy. Like, this could happen.
Yeah, I want to imagine these chaotic 10-year-olds just going at it. But also, it's a very dark story, because Helen and Theseus, he's an old man. I don't like it. Okay.
Yeah, Helen has had a pretty tough life, honestly.
Helen deserved better. Helen did nothing wrong. Yeah, I love her. Okay, so these men wanted to marry the daughters of the White Horse, because of course they're obsessed with fucking horses. Not obsessed with fucking horses, God. Don't let me speak, ever.
I mean,
I mean...
we don't know their life.
We don't know. It's true. We don't know their life. Maybe they're actually the fathers of some centaurs out there. We're very happy. I'm making a fan fiction about these Greek figures. It's great. Okay, so... Oh, okay, so the women are already, like, betrothed to people. This is fine. I don't think that's gonna go well for them. No.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. There's a lot of shit about this. We already talked about the Roman stuff, but hey, here it is at the bottom. They're there. They were in Pompeii!
Well...
There's a little picture of them in Pompeii.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Oh, okay. Random thing that I'm seeing here. Polydeuces was maybe a lover of Hermes.
Yeah.
That's gay.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I like hearing that Hermes was also, like, a chaotic pansexual.
They all are.
As it should be.
I feel like I just
all of them.
I never really thought of him that way, but I'm just like, you know what, he gets around, like, literally gets around. He's the god of travelers.
Mm-hmm.
Just all over the place. So, how this story goes is that, one of them dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sad, because one of them is immortal, because he's a demigod. How that works, no clue, but it just is. And so he gives up half his immortality so they can live in the stars and shit. That's why they're
that sounds like some dividing by zero
constellations.
shit. Like, if you're immortal, then you live forever, which is infinity, and half of infinity is still infinity. So, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
that
it's
seems
fine.
like a hack. Like,
well, it's more like, from what I read, they split, like, well, there's a few different versions, though, I think. Like, there's one where it's every other day, so they never get to, like, see each other again, but they, like, split, like, every other day when they're alive.
Oh, that
That's
makes
so
me
fucking
sad.
And then there's another version where, it's not that they're mortal and they split it's like they split their time specifically between, like, Mount Olympus and the underworld. So they're not, like, alive on Earth. It's like they're between the underworld and but we think in, like, I say we. Like, the oldest versions and, like, mentionings of them are in Homer, though, where it seems like they are both mortal. And again, it's, like, a whole tragedy thing because there's this, like, really iconic scene where it's the first time you get to see Helen in the Iliad, where she's staring down at all of the people fighting, and Priam, the king of Troy, is like, oh, Helen, like, can you point out, like, who all these people are? And so she's telling them, like, oh, that's Menelaus, that's Agamemnon, that's, like, all of these people, and, like, talking about their past deeds. And then she's, like, looking out, and she's trying to find her brothers, and she's like, I don't see them, I wonder where they are, they must not have come to Troy. And then in the narration it says, but she didn't know they were already dead.
That's so fucking sad.
Because they died before they went, they never made it to Troy, they died before in that version.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Homer hits different. This is what I'm saying. Like,
you know, sometimes Homer did things pretty good, actually.
Homer is
What I was gonna say about the whole, like, one of them being, like, alive, but, like, they're alive at different times thing, that just reminds me of a Once Upon a Time plotline where they were sharing the sleeping curse, and so they would kiss. And then, like, one of them would be awake, and then the other would be asleep, and then they just swap, so that one of them would be sleeping, and then one of them would be awake.
That's great.
Yeah.
That sounds really fun.
It got solved very easily and weirdly.
There is one line on this Wikipedia page that I want to point out, because I love when Wikipedia pages have random little bits of poetry. It says, Castor and Pollux are sometimes both mortal, sometimes both divine. One consistent point is that if only one of them is immortal, it is Pollux. Like, the inevitability of that if one of them is going to die without the other, it will always be Castor. It's like in every iteration, even here in Percy Jackson.
Why did you say
Spoilers.
that? Ow.
And so it does seem that that the weird who they were trying to marry things, what ended up killing the one guy. But again, I'm not going to go into that because we have a chapter to talk about.
bright fucking idea was it to name their kids Castor and Pollux in the modern era?
Dionysus, apparently.
Doesn't he know
I
that?
mean, I don't know. There's
Maybe it was his girlfriend's fault.
That's what I'm wondering.
I mean, you have twins. They're demigods. You're looking up baby names. It happens.
Apollo and Artemis. It's right there.
He's not gonna name them after his brother and sister. Oh, wait,
I don't think he's the one that's naming them.
I mean, like, listen. Well, I was gonna say, there needs to be a whole club, right, of the moms who have named their kids after Greek heroes in this series. Because I was like, Jason, that's a choice. And I was like, well, that's, okay, fine. That's like a name people have that's not, like, necessarily mythology.
I mean, I think there also just needs to be a parents support group, like parents of demigod support group / ex-lovers of God support group. Like both of these things need to be addressed, and they need to all chat about it.
My girl Sally Jackson
is
the only one who had the right idea, which is that I'm going to look up the one hero who doesn't have a horrific ending, so that I won't lay my son with the poetic curse.
I mean, well, okay, here's a question. If you met a god and had a kid with the god, by whatever means, though, like, what would you name that kid? I would not name that kid Stacy.
Why? What's wrong with Stacy?
You know what I mean? You'd be like, listen,
but Stacy's mom has got it going on.
I need people to know this on some level, that this happened. Because I'm hot. Hot
It's like
stuff.
Zeus Jr. So that you know he's the second.
Zeus Jr.
Actually, you know what? Naming your kid Dion that could work. Dion, it means the genuine form of Zeus in Greek. It's also the name of the archaeological site that's around Mount Olympus.
Yeah. And then there's the goddess, is it Dion as well? That's sometimes the mother of Aphrodite. Oh my goodness.
Couldn't say. I'm a history expert, not a myth. Well, I'm not even really an expert. I'm a history person, not a myth person. Linguistics.
I just like really weird stories that don't make any sense, and that's why I'm here.
Actually, that name, the Dioscuri, that's the Latinization of it, but it's Dioscuri, Dioscoroi, if you're pronouncing it ancient instead of modern Greek. That means like two sons of Zeus, like sons of the sky god.
I think I just need you to be like the person who says things for me, because I can't pronounce Greek names for the life of me at all times.
I've noticed this is a trend. Whenever I'm talking, like when we are on our podcast, or whenever I guess, people will say a name and then just look at me, and I'm like, yeah. Okay.
Did I say
bold
it right?
of you to assume I can read. There's multiple ways to pronounce it though, because there's the English version of it, there's the modern Greek version of it, and the ancient Greek version of it, and it's who cares?
I'll just go with Gemini. That one's harder to fuck up, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get this Council Cloven now. We've been trying to rename these chapters as well, because we need more bits in this podcast.
We really don't.
We really don't. I think we could name it All My Friends Are Dead, but actually none of Percy's friends are dead.
Right.
Because we've had Lee Fletcher named once before this.
I really thought Lee Fletcher was gonna be more of a character. I know his name so well.
I thought he was. I thought he was too. For some reason, I thought he appeared more in this book.
He's an iconic guy who lives at camp, and now he's just unceremoniously dead. So that's cool. Bye.
Poor guy. Barely knew ya. And then Castor, whose name we just learned, he's also dead. So Lee was dead. Lee was killed by a Giants Club, and Castor was killed by an enemy half-blood. Yikes. One of those other half-bloods committed a murder.
They're probably 14.
I mean, they kill monsters, but oh god, imagine if it was a 10-year-old who just killed this 17-year-old.
I just keep imagining all these monsters that face down 12-year-old Percy Jackson, and we're like, oh my god, no, he's 12, I'm thousands of years old, why? A single rogue 12-year-old with a half-baked plan.
It's the who would win. Thousands of years old monster with like claws and shit.
And a 12-year-old whose entire plan is just look over there,
and then to cut off your head and steal all your money.
If I had a nickel for every time Percy Jackson killed a monster who ran a business and then stole all of their money afterwards, I would have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice in The Lightning Thief. In that one book specifically, he kills Medusa and Procrustes in the same
and
way.
And reads their cash registers.
It's so funny. That book was just like, yeah, fuck capitalism, actually. We're gonna kill those people and steal their money.
Okay, generally we support small business owners, though. Just not when they're, horrific monsters luring people in.
Where's the fic? Where's the art? Phoebe, where's the art of Percy being the one who's unionizing the orcas right now?
What? What?
Am I the only one that's following this?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, look this up. Oh my gosh. Okay, right now, as we speak, a bunch of orcas in a specific pod have figured out how to capsize ships and have been doing it and teaching each other how to do it. And they're spreading. They're unionizing.
Oh my god, that is Percy. Percy's the one who did this.
Well, I don't want to give Percy the credit. I want to give the orcas the credit, but I feel like Percy found out is helping them out. He's like, oh yeah, I won't cross this picket line.
Hell yeah.
Oh my gosh. Whatever. I don't know what happened, but the orcas are right. I stand with the orcas.
I don't know what that ship did wrong, but fuck them, I guess.
I'm just I love oh man, overfishing. The orcas are fine. They finally had enough.
The orcas strike back.
Oh
the orcas were the humans can't regulate themselves. A hero must come from among us.
Oh my god. So Percy Jackson.
So back to our incredibly depressing chapter. They have to treat all our wounded, which was almost everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chiron's actually in the wheelchair, and using it like it was intended.
Yeah, his leg is actually broken today.
Great. He actually has a use for it. I'm so glad. And then we gotta talk about this fucking satyrs. Oh my goodness. Okay. I think it's funny that this kind of becomes a pissing contest between Silenus and Dionysus.
I love it so much.
Do we
Thank
remember?
you, Dionysus.
Do you remember who Silenus is? That's Dionysus's, the guy who raised him / maybe his boyfriend. Yeah, he's that guy.
An attendant, I guess.
Yeah. So this is just it just has a few levels of oh.
I didn't even think about them having history. That's wild.
Yeah, I just saw the name oh, interesting. Rick, what are you doing here?
It makes me wonder, did they come with Dionysus, all the satyrs? Or was this, already happening? What's the timeline here,
I mean...
Because Dionysus has only been in charge of Camp Half-Blood for, he's supposed to be there for 100 years, which is not up yet.
That would explain, though, why they work at Camp Half-Blood, is that literally they just are here because of Dionysus. Because I've always wondered that.
But then why are the satyrs all seekers? Did that start with the Dionysus
No,
thing?
I'd assume that's their own, thing that they're doing.
Yeah, that's their pan stuff.
Or not the seekers. I meant going into schools and finding kids.
I feel like that was just a thing that they did. I don't know. I feel like that's before Dionysus. In my head I'm crafting Silenus and Dionysus haven't spoken in a while before Dionysus comes to Camp Half-Blood. The satyrs have been doing their own shit. They've been looking for Pan. They've been taking care of Half-Bloods. And now these two are just no longer bros. And it's awkward. But they're co-workers. You ever just ghost someone and then suddenly you're working together? Yeah, that's the vibes. That's why they're not in agreement right now. So we talk about panic, which I technically mentioned last episode. That was our myth section because that was the only thing that really happened. Was Grover and the Panic. Mm-hmm. The new band name, Grover and the Panic. So he summoned this, cool Pan power, and everyone's like, nah, Pan's still alive. We don't believe you.
Mostly just Silenus, but the other satyrs are like murmuring agreement because nobody wants to think that the god they've been searching for thousands of years is dead.
This is just Order the Phoenix right now. Oh my god. Why did I just realize that? This is just like, no, Voldemort's not back, actually. Pan is not dead. No, we're not gonna believe you, person who saw the thing happen.
Classic.
Actually. Guys, this is why you have, like, the searchers, the whatever they're called, yeah. Is so you can figure out what happened to Pan, and somebody found out, but you don't believe him.
They don't like the answer, so they're just gonna, pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you guys could have
Good
gone
lesson
out
here.
and looked yourself.
I'm sure they did, but, they didn't want to get murdered by Polyphemus and then the labyrinth.
It's fine.
So Silenus calls for a vote, and that's when Dionysus strides up, and he's wearing a formal black suit, which is not his general vibe.
Well, he's just been to, like, a council, right? Of the gods?
Well, I'm assuming more that, yeah, it might be his formal wear for having been meeting with people, but I was kind of thinking that his son just died, and this is maybe his, like, mourning outfit.
That too.
Yeah. I think, like, Poseidon rocks up to the god council than, like, Tommy Bahama shorts. So I think this feels more like funeral attire.
Okay. So Dionysus shows up late to the party, fashionably late, because that's who he is. He created parties.
It says here that his eyes were bloodshot as usual, and his face was flushed, but it looked like it was grief more than wine withdrawal. And I'm like, oh, that hurts a little bit for me.
Yeah. He makes himself a throne of grapevines, so on point. We love it. And then he's just, like, chilling, and the satyrs come to feed him. This man, we stand.
Right. Normally, it's so annoying when Dionysus throws his weight around, but this time, you're like, hell yeah, Dionysus, put these assholes in their place.
Like, you needed this. And he asked for Grover's story once again, which is great. But also tells us that the minor gods have switched to the side of the Titans.
The list says
Yikes.
Morpheus, Hecate, Janus, and Nemesis have all switched sides, or have...
And even Zeus doesn't know how many more.
Strike that. Yeah. He says Zeus knows, and then Zeus rumbles at him, because he's like, I don't have any fucking idea, don't ask me.
Zeus doesn't know everything, just so you know.
I love that Zeus doesn't pay attention to, like, anything. Doesn't pay attention to his kids, nothing. As soon as someone's like, ugh, Zeus, he's like, excuse me.
Yeah, if you...
I heard that.
You invoke his name, he's gonna listen. Actually.
God forbid Percy Jackson gets on one airplane. He will find out.
Exactly. So we have a vote. The three satyrs are like, fuck Grover. Dionysus and Chiron are like, no, he's right. But actually, Dionysus is a god, therefore his vote counts twice.
It's so funny of him. I love this.
Oh my god. So
it's interesting though how, like, he just shows up and he's immediately like, yeah, no. Like, I only pretended to give you power and democracy so long as it was actually what I wanted. Ta-ta.
I mean, he's a god. Why doesn't he just say, no, actually, I veto this? And, Grover is, like, scot-free. Like, he was correct. You guys are wrong.
It's more fun to do it this way.
It is.
Except that they end up dissolving the council anyways, because they can't get past their tie.
Yeah. Well, Grover's like, well, fuck the council. We don't need them. I can do whatever I want now. So... We love that for him.
Grover's...
Yeah.
He becomes a leader of men, of satyrs. Which I'm like, your sudden maturity jump, my boy. I'm very proud of you. I think that this whole Pan interaction has hit him very hard, but he's dividing satyrs into groups to send them to parks and wild places. He's reminding them of the words of Pan. He's doing great.
Yeah. Listen,
Annabeth points out that how much Grover's grown up now. I feel like now that the endless search for Pan is over and he's like no longer seeking constantly
Yeah.
I don't know. I was having like big thoughts while reading this part because I feel like it sort of speaks to some of the themes that we see coming from the Titan cause, with Luke like constantly looking to the past for answers and trying and failing to bring this like ancient being back. Like here, Grover has finally given up on looking to this ancient and long dead or missing god like Luke is, and is finally looking to the future and like, how can we fix this ourselves? Which is something that Luke hasn't figured out yet. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I feel like I feel like there's a reason that Pan's death was put like back to back with Kronos coming back, because it was like two sides of that coin of either letting go and looking to the future and actually doing something to create change, or going to the extremes to bring back something that should be long dead at this point because you can't see a way forward that isn't going backward.
Yeah, that's so right.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we had our Pan chapter, I went over like the instead of doing a myth, I talked about Kings Under the Mountain, because I was just like, that's what this trope is with Kronos and Pan. It's just like it's the person who's like in a sleep, quote unquote, that's like gonna like come back and like either save the world or destroy it or something. But then Pan is just like, nah, I'm not gonna, because I want to die. Can I just please die now? It's been a while. He needs to rest.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing I think we talked a little bit about on our episode 2, where according to Rick's dating and also some theories about like where Pan's origin is, that like basically like when Rick says he first announced like the great god Pan is dead is like 3,000 years ago, which roughly coincides with like the Bronze Age collapse, which is also when like the people we know of as the ancient Greeks officially kind of took over Greece and the Mediterranean and like kind of began the West in this world in a way, at least in Rick's chronology. So it's a lot of cool stuff there.
Right, so like the West and the wild are like naturally opposed. That's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, civilization versus the wild. Makes sense. Okay, well, now we have Tyson's little ending here. Do we love Raye's just building a sandcastle and just, like, not even paying attention?
Yeah, he's doing great.
This man is just, like, so many levels of ADHD that I just love so much.
Like, if you had, like, 100 hands, and then also, like, 50 faces or 10 faces? I forget how many. Like, what would you be
50.
doing?
Yeah.
Like, what would you be doing?
I mean...
Playing in the sand for sure.
Exactly.
Doing a sandcastle contest with just yourself? Like, you beat yourself?
He must have, like, a lot of brain power to have, like, coordination for all 50 of those hands.
This man.
400, sorry.
Power to him. Yeah. So Tyson's giving him directions.
He's drawing him a map. Very good.
Good. Raye's is gonna go help the Cyclops and show them some cool shit. And now he won't have to be lonely. Yay, friends.
I'm very happy for him also.
But I guess Tyson's gonna stay here, at least for a little bit. So yay. Raye's throws good rocks. That's what is important here. So we have dinner. And then Nico is just, like, being the edgy kid in the corner.
Right. What irks me... Okay. So, Nico has been offered places to sit. He could sit at Hermes' table, or he could sit at the head table. But he has refused both of those because he does not feel like he belongs in either of those places. There isn't really a space for him here. Like, and that... that is something that I relate to. That is like hyper childhood depression.
I mean, I also made a meme of this like a while back, but this just gives me Meet the Robinsons vibes. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? They all hate me. Like, that's Nico's vibe. Everybody's like, hey, yeah, come be our friends. And he's just like,
but they aren't really being like that. They're trying. But everybody does look at him weird and feel weird about him. Like, the thing is that he's not wrong.
He's not totally wrong, but also the problem is that camp doesn't currently have a system that works with Nico. So it's not the camper's fault.
Yeah. And I mean, there's like a whole, like, I mean, I think almost every culture has a stigma with talking about death, but there's like a whole thing where like they wouldn't even say the name of Hades in a lot of like...
He was just like the
Greek
Dark Zeus or something.
Yeah, he had a bunch of like epithets that they'd call him. My favorite being Cronione, purely because it kind of there was this one time. It just means the son of Kronos, right?
It does. That's
yeah,
so funny.
Cronioni. But there's this one time I was going insane during like finals week translating the hymn to Demeter, and it kept referring to Hades as Cronioni, and I would just be sitting there in my brain like thinking about that SpongeBob episode, like Cronioni, give me the formula. And now I can't look at that without like thinking about it. So
oh my
these are
god.
the things that keep you sane when you study Greek, because Greek is insane. Shout out to the grad student when we were translating Socrates, who just burst out laughing in the middle of class. We were like, what's so funny? And she was like, every time he says ego lego, which means like I said, she just was like, I just keep thinking Lego my ego.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Oh my god. That's beautiful.
Yeah, the things you have to do to stay sane.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot, apparently.
Anyway.
So,
yeah.
So our boy, the Hot
Cronioni,
Topic
yeah.
model is just like in the corner. He's just like, I have to stand in the shadows and be a little creep because that's who he is, and I love him. This is our brother, Phoebe. This is our brother.
Mm-hmm.
We're children of Hades. How do we feel about this? Just like being in the shadows all the time. Do you vibe?
I mean, I don't try to do it, but I do catch myself sometimes.
That's just how it happens.
Mm.
So Nico actually talks to Bianca.
Right, he slips out.
So
Yeah.
Summons her.
yeah. So this is gotta be like the last time that we see her. Wow. But she doesn't see Percy or anything. She just like fades basically immediately. Yeah. And Percy's like, you could have sat with me at dinner. Come on. Why are you missing meals, dude? You gotta hang out with us, please. Feed yourself.
Percy's
I beg you.
telling Nico what his options are at camp, because in Percy's brain, you're a half-blood, you stay at camp. And Nico has already decided that he's not gonna be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he say in a previous chapter, I'm gonna train with the dead or something?
Well, yeah.
This is right
that's
here.
Or is that here? Is that here? Okay.
Percy says, you need to
Listen.
train, and Nico says, I train with the dead.
I just remember him saying that somewhere. My brain is just Percy Jackson all the time. So yeah, very emo.
It makes me think, like, again, you know, the pact between the big three is only what, like, since the 1940s? Like, what happened before that? Like, what were the children of Hades doing?
Oh, they probably still wouldn't have had a cabin because, like,
Yeah.
it's the 12 Olympians.
Like, what were they doing?
Wandering around,
What
dying,
happened?
being edgy, I guess, probably.
I guess they were like, oh wow, so weird. Wonder why the children of Hades are always the villains when we exclude them.
Yeah, it's a social system that's explicitly failing them.
On an institutional level. Weird. Wild. That's crazy.
I think they were all chilling with Zagreus, actually, and trying to escape the underworlds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This
That's
is
like
a Hades
the Darth
reference.
Well, I was gonna say that's like the Darth version of Camp Half-Blood, right? Because Zagreus is Dionysus.
Yeah, he
Oh
is.
shit, it's all coming together.
Yeah. It's like the dark timeline. That's I don't know the comic book term for it, but I'm sure there is one. Where it's like the dark alternate timeline or whatever. The like alternate universe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing, I think.
Imagine Camp Half-Blood in the underworld, actually, and Zagreus is the teacher.
Do a much better job.
He would. Listen, Rick, why don't you have Zagreus in your books now? Come on, Hades is really popular. Everyone knows who he is now. You gotta bring him in. Come on. You won't stop writing these books. He's gotta bring Zagreus in.
Maybe that'll be the next one. Maybe they'll like do a deal.
Yeah, and then we find out that Nico has a brother. He's just like, what? What the fuck are you?
Well, hey, brother.
Yeah. Would you rather
We're talking about the video game.
Would you rather the Zeus and Persephone version? Would you rather that one? No.
Well, that whole thing's just weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
The Orphism stuff, like that. It's just weird. It's weird stuff.
Orphism is a fun time, and Hades is basically a love letter to Orphism.
It's like, yeah, which is fun, you know. We love a good Orpheus cult, but like, well, it's not really an Orpheus cult. We love a Dionysus cult.
Yeah.
We love, like, whoever in, like, the Hellenistic period was like, I found the lost works of Orpheus.
Listen, my favorite part in the Hades game is when Zagreus and Dionysus pull a trick on Orpheus, And they're like, actually, we're the same person, didn't you know? And so Orpheus makes a whole song about that. Yeah, that's just...
this is the part where I have to tell you, I have not played this game.
I'm explaining it to you, so...
Okay.
Go listen to the song, and you'll be like, oh, this is just Orphism. That's all it is. Which song is it on the album?
Still hasn't listened to Hades Town. It's a crime.
Yo, no, you need to come see it.
Listen,
you don't live far.
You're not that far. Come over.
Charlie, do it for me. I can't. I'm trapped over here in the Midwest.
How dare you?
There's a tour too. I bet it's coming to Boston.
Eventually, maybe. I'll have to find out when. Okay, the song was the hymn to Zagreus. Yeah. I do jam out to it. Okay, so Percy tries it.
Alright.
I mean, if we want to keep talking about the conversation with Nico, I had a thought while reading it.
Okay.
Which is, hang on, let me collect it.
Oh, the thought's gone.
No. I feel like with Percy, like, continuously trying to be like, oh, well, Nico, you have a place here for sure, just stay, and Nico rejecting him, I feel like that's such an essential moment, even if Percy isn't realizing it, that, like, Nico isn't just, you know, I'm trying to remember what Percy actually says that Nico's going off to do here, but it's like, oh, he has to find his own path, which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he needs to have a place at camp, which Percy might not totally recognize at this point, but I feel like we, the reader, at this point have to recognize, because, like, Nico doesn't have a cabin, he doesn't feel like he belongs, and after, like, in this chapter, watching Grover make a change and Tyson actually, like, lead Briareus to help, and it's like,
but they all have,
and
like,
even
supports.
after this point, when we have, like, we find out that Dionysus helped Chris, then you're left with this, like, non-help that Percy offers Nico, and it's like, well, what can you do? It hammers home that, like, what are you gonna do about it, Percy? Because this is a non-answer.
I'm wondering if Rick knows at this point that he needs to do something about Nico, or if that's something that, like, comes to him later. Because Percy seems to very much accept the status quo here. What it says is that I wanted to argue, but part of me knew he was right. I didn't like it, but Nico would have to find his own dark way.
That's so emo.
Yeah, I definitely think that Rick is on Percy's side at this point.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the story that he's crafting is doing the opposite of what he's intending at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he also mentions, we've already talked about it, but Pan didn't talk to Nico.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, because nobody wants to talk to the Death Boy. Oops.
We're just leaving a lot of it, like, open-ended with, like, nothing feels finished with Nico.
And clearly there are plans. You know, he's talking about how he's going to go out and try to find out more about his past.
Yeah, I mean, he does need to
Which
do
that is important that he find out. Like, that, I do think he should go out and
But he needs some
that.
help.
Like, who is that lawyer guy? Who did get them out of the hotel?
He needs a support system back home.
He needs any kind of support that anyone will offer him. And Percy is trying. That is true.
He tries, but he does it by trying to bring him back to, like, you know, his childhood by giving him, like, the Mythomagic statue and trying to, like, get him back, like, be a kid. And I think that's where he goes wrong. He is a child. I think, like, the adult take on this is doing this, but, like, I think it's not what Nico needs. Like, Nico needs it, but Nico, I think, doesn't want to acknowledge he needs it, so it was the wrong approach.
I feel like it's the wrong approach because he's encouraging him to be what he once was instead of, like, acknowledging that he can't return to what he was before and can't return to camp and be excited like he was when he was a kid, and, like,
it's more that he needs to, like, accept both parts of himself.
That's where I'm at more like Nico has changed and become a different and more mature person, but that person needs to accept that he can still feel joy and, like, care about things that just for the sake of caring about them. Like, he still knows how much...
But focusing solely on that, like Percy does here, isn't going to work.
I'm
not sure if that's what Percy does. I don't know if I agree, because I don't know, he doesn't do a lot for him, but what he says is keep in touch, Nico. Like, he gives him this thing. It's this sweet moment. But I don't think that he's, like, trying to force anything onto him with that.
No, I don't think that either.
Yeah.
I don't know how to articulate
He's
how
I think it's just the
Tries.
solutions that he's offering Nico was never going to accept
Okay, that
because
does make
it's so
sense to me.
focused on like, yeah.
Listen, Percy is also a child, so he doesn't know how to do therapy for this small boy.
Right, and what is
Yeah.
the solution? What is the thing that Nico's going to accept? And maybe that's just Percy saying keep in touch and letting him go. You know, that's really all that he can do.
Yeah,
Like-
at this point, that probably is all that he can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was a place, like, cut and clear for Nico to go, maybe he would have stayed, but...
Yeah, just dropping that idea in now.
You know, maybe.
I'm not sure if we can say that as a spoiler when we say it at the beginning of every episode of this podcast.
The cabins are not spoilers anymore. It's the only thing. Yeah, so then we move on to Dionysus. And, you know, Dionysus and Percy just, like, chilling for a minute. Okay.
This is one of the biggest scenes I remembered from this book, like, from when I read it as a kid. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah. So Dionysus healed our boy Chris Rodriguez, because you have to say both names. He's just that one guy in the background who I guess we're pairing off with Clarice.
You
Yay.
guess?
They're
It's been the
friends.
whole time, Charlie.
They're friends. They're friends.
They're friends. Friendship
I guess.
exists.
I do.
They're
Listen,
both gay. I don't know why we're pushing this agenda.
I know, right?
what did we say in our Pride episode, Raye? That, like, Chris is a he-him lesbian and Clarice is just... Yeah.
Thank you.
So everything is fine. We can also have this. Yeah, so...
I just adore these scenes with Dionysus where he shows, like, any ounce of emotional intelligence. I'm like, haha.
He's like,
Yeah.
actually, I can be an alright guy at sometimes, but most of the time I don't want to be, because I was forced to be here.
Okay, I just feel like no other god at this point has, like, acted this human
Yes,
with
you're
us,
so
or at least,
right.
like, his grief, dressing in black like he's going to a funeral, and, like, eyes being bloodshot and everything, and just that his whole demeanor feels so much more human than
Well,
literally any other god.
I believe it's like Rick. It's a Rickism that, like, Dionysus is like a half-blood who became
Yeah.
a
Which is
god.
referenced in this chapter,
So-
which, like, reminding
Yeah.
us of that, like, he started out as immortal, and that's probably why he feels so much closer to them.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's
And
like
there are versions of his story where that is a thing, too.
It is?
And
Okay.
it's- Mhm.
I can never remember what's a Rickism and what's not sometimes. So
A lot of, well, the thing with Rick is, like, he really doesn't make up that much from nowhere.
except Zoe.
Like, one of my hobbies is being like, where did you get this from? And going on a deep dive. Now,
Same.
like the dates, and I'm like, why that date? You know, but yeah, Dionysus, I mean, we've talked, he has, like, his own epic poem that was written, like, in the Byzantine Empire-ish, and then he has, like, other stuff and a bunch of other, like, he's got a lot going on with the Orphism, the, like, regular Hesiod stuff. He's got a lot of options. So.
And don't forget the frogs. Dionysus and frogs.
I would not strictly describe that as canon, but
Listen, I'm just now realizing Dionysus being the non-binary king that we know and love, having a play called The Frogs featuring
did we
him.
talk about the frogs last time I was on?
I think we
this
did.
podcast?
Charlie's been
Listen,
feeling,
it's still
feelings about it.
it's still on my brain because of that Hades 2 trailer having a frog in it, and I'm just like,
Oh my god!
how do I connect this
Oh,
somehow
do you know
to
what
Greek
that
mythology?
means? Do you know what that means? They're going to the moon.
Ooh.
Wait, what?
That's the plot of the frogs.
That'd be fun.
Well,
The plot of the frogs is that Dionysus is trying to go back to the underworld to bring Euripides back,
yeah, I knew they were going to the underworld.
but they get so lost that they end up on the moon.
Okay, I forgot that part.
I want that in Hades too.
I will also say, again, I feel like I need to talk more about, like, the chaotic classics energy of it all, but the first time I heard about, like, this was from one of my Greek teachers who had made that passage one of the you had to take, like, exams to test into certain levels of Greek. And she was just, like, cackling to us, being like, I made that the passage. They'll never get it. Because they, like, go to the moon and are picking frogs. And I was like, why? Why would you do that? Like, tee-hee.
I mean, I think we don't know for sure what the plot of Hades 2 is, but I think it's supposed to be going into the underworld. Maybe.
So
But
that sounds like it could
there's a
be
frog.
perfect, though. Yeah.
That's why I'm like,
just saying.
there's a
like,
frog
they spent Hades
here.
1 in the underworld, didn't they? So, like,
also
don't
the
know.
main character does have like moon things on her, so
oh my
like
gosh.
this frog
It's
is
all
important.
coming together.
This is
Yeah,
all
I
that
want
matters
this
to
so
me. This
bad.
frog is very important to me.
They go to the moon.
I think that Dionysus has been chill since his rooftop conversation with Percy in book 3, and that he's just like riding on his reputation of being a dick from like the first 2 books.
That conversation in book 3 was very important to me.
I feel like he still goes out of his way to be like, I'm a dick. I mean, like, what I'm saying to you isn't, but I'm gonna do it in a way where I still come off, like,
He's
annoying.
just like, this is the personality I want everyone to know me as, but actually I'm not like that.
Yeah. Like, I've got a brand, but,
I'm going to be
He's
dickish
the god
about
of,
it,
like,
but I am
theater?
going to help you.
I'm the... Yeah.
He's the god of drama, literally. So
Yeah.
he has to be dramatic. That's why he puts on a show. But most of the time here in these books, he's too tired.
He says, I am nice. I simply ooze niceness, Perry Johannesson. Haven't you noticed?
That's a new name for Percy now. No more Peter
he's-
Johnson, Perry Johannesson.
Yeah, he's starting to get into the Norse
Oh, boy.
territory here.
Oh, Norse, of course. Okay, also, the fact that he mentions the people of his village laughing at me, this is also talking about one of my other favorite Dionysus things, the Bacchae. Oh my goodness. Remember that time that he, got his followers to murder his cousin? In the woods, while his cousin was in drag?
We love a good murder in the woods.
We love it so much.
It's the best.
It is.
Great summer activity.
Yeah, that's what you do when people are like, I don't believe he's a god. I'm not going to worship him. So you're like, I'll make an example out of your king then.
Yeah. What else are you going to do?
Absolutely. Yeah, so everybody's happy, except nobody's happy because Nico is who knows where. Where's my son / brother? I haven't figured that out yet.
My brother died in this book, so...
That's true!
Oh no.
Oh, well, it's fine. There's another one. Pollux is still here.
Wow. Talk about insensitive.
Let's see what happens to Pollux now that he's a named character.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah. Named characters always do well in this series.
Yeah, like Lee Fletcher, who was in 2 chapters? Maybe 3?
I'm sure Lee's come up with quite a few times. Like,
the Stoll brothers are going strong.
Yeah. They're important. We
weren't
always
even in
love
book
her.
1. They were in book 1, right? Like,
Were they?
Okay.
It was either book 1 or 2, yeah.
Remember the only named hunter of Artemis, Phoebe? Who immediately gets taken out by the Stoll brothers?
Okay, justice for Phoebe. God, when we talked about that chapter, I was just like, this is actually really fucked up when you know what myth it's taken from, actually.
I mean, it was fucked up anyways.
It was fucked up anyways, but it's even worse.
Yeah.
We are almost
poor
done with this
girl.
book. We're clearly wrapping up, which makes me think that something's going to go horribly wrong next chapter.
Well, what is it called? My birthday party takes a dark turn?
Yay!
Yeah.
I didn't even look at the book for that one.
Oh my
I just
God.
knew that one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Because it's an iconic name for a chapter, actually.
Yeah.
Well, my friends, where can the people find you on the internet if you'd like to be found?
You can find our podcast, Monster Donut, wherever you listen to podcasts. We read a book per episode.
Because they're crazy.
Yeah.
Gotta get that literary analysis. You gotta, top to bottom.
Oh my goodness.
Charlie was on our Lost Hero episode, so everyone should go listen to that.
Yeah, because someone needs to give the Lost Hero some love. It doesn't really deserve it, but like, it's okay. It's an okay book, I guess.
And if you'd like to find us on social media, we are at PJOPod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can also find our individual social media handles linked there.
Yeah.
And you can go see Phoebe's art, which is awesome.
It truly is.
Yeah.
You were definitely,
I post my art.
You were definitely one of my plugs for the podcast, because we do plugs of just things.
Oh,
I was just like,
thank
Phoebe's
you.
art. Go check it out. It's great.
Yeah. She always does some cool stuff. Although it is spoilery art if you're only up to here in this podcast. There's some you might want to skim a little before
just
go down
scroll
to the bottom.
really quick to the bottom.
I think most artists at this point are going to be spoilery compared to this podcast and where we
we're
are.
a little bit behind.
So
you know,
we'll get
just don't read the descriptions. Just don't read the descriptions. It's fine.
You just look at it and you'll be like, "What is this? What does it mean?"
Just be like, "Oh, interesting."
Okay, moving on.
Interesting.
All right, so do we have any social media plugs, friends? Anything you've been consuming lately that you just really like? Blah, blah, blah. Why did I say social media plugs? I meant media plugs. Like, anything you've been listening to, reading, watching, just enjoying? I have to think of something too.
Alright,
so.
if you guys are thinking, I'll go first, because I'm like almost positive that I've recommended Diana Wynne Jones's writing before. But if I did, I almost certainly told you to read the Crest Fancy Chronicles, which you still should. But, so this time I'm going to say, go read Howl's Moving Castle. It's very different from the film.
Oh my god.
It's in the most delightful of ways.
I was gonna say, I've heard that theory where, like, the movie is Howl's perspective and the book is Sophie's perspective. I actually know nothing about Howl's Moving Castle other than that. That is the only thing I know.
That's a great movie and a great book. I actually read the book recently too. Yeah, it was cool.
I love her fantasy writing. I love, like, the sort of snarky, like, meta way that she does it. And which does not come through in the film at all, but it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great.
Julie's good
I've
stuff.
been reading lately.
I don't usually like to do things that I've already plugged before, but I'm gonna go ahead and plug Andi Mack again on this podcast because it's a fucking good show. I'm still sad that it's not all on Disney Plus, but you can go find it other places on the internet. I think I bought all of it on iTunes, and that's how I watched it. But you know what? It's good, and we have a good small boy who's a gay character in a Disney Channel show, and they talk about it. And it's the first Disney show to ever use the words "I am gay," so I think that's important, actually.
Yeah. Very important.
Cyrus is my first gay Disney character. He's the only one that matters to me.
Has Black Sails already been plugged on this podcast?
Probably, but go ahead.
I don't have to do it if everyone's already heard it.
I mean, go ahead and plug what you want. Poseidon's on it, right?
Yeah. I feel like if you're a Percy Jackson fan and you haven't watched Black Sails, you should get on that. Because it's not only made by several of the showrunners who are behind the Percy Jackson Disney Plus show, it also features the actors who are going to play Poseidon and Medusa in its main cast.
Oh, both of them? Okay.
Yep. And it's also just genuinely one of the best TV shows ever made. Like, if you like analyzing stories like I do, and sword fighting, and betrayal, and gay pirates, like, it's really good.
I've heard that it's the original gay pirate show.
It is.
It is the original gay pirate show.
Everyone's talking
made
about
in 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Phoebe has now made me watch. How far did we get?
We got to episode 8 of season 2.
Okay.
Where's it streaming?
It's on
Hulu.
Stars, but yeah, it's on Hulu now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that's on my list,
but
my list is expansive and I never get to it.
Move it up. Move it up the list.
It's good. And then when you watch it, you can watch Phoebe's YouTube video where she breaks down the Percy Jackson writer's room, but she does so by spoiling a lot of Black Sails. So I watched the first 6 minutes of the video and then paused it right when it was like, and now we're going to talk about Black Sails.
Oops.
It's great. 10 out of 10.
Good shit.
Okay, I have a plug. Mine is that if you like reading and you like reading about gods and you like fantasy, one of my good friends, her book's coming out pretty soon. Like, they're just starting to release advanced reader copies and stuff that you can request on NetGalley, but you can also add it on Goodreads if it sounds interesting. But it's called The Longest Autumn by Amy Avery, and it's about it's like a mystery that's about basically, in this world, all of the gods of the seasons are like personified as like actual gods, but they live in the realm of the gods. But when it's their season, they get led out by mortal heralds. And when they're present in the world, it's their season, but they become more mortal over this course of the season, and so they get brought back, and that's how the seasons change. But the main character, who's the Herald of Autumn, when she brings Autumn through the portal, the magic mirror that they use to travel between the realm of the gods and the mortal world shatters.
Oh.
And everyone thinks it's her fault, and she has no idea what happened. And it's really bad because if the world is in an endless autumn, then people are going to starve. There's lots of disease.
Yeah.
And also, he's the god of death, so if he can't go back, the spirits of the dead can't go back either. It's a great book. Add it on Goodreads, The Longest Autumn, and it will be coming out soon. And I beta read it, and my friend's an amazing writer, and it's such a good book, and I'm in the acknowledgements.
It sounds very Hades and Persephone.
It's great. She's also, she actually also has self-published a Fae series called Cambiare that you can buy now. That's also very Hades and Persephone trapped in the Fae world. Very good. Very fun.
I do like thinking about them as Fae, too. It's very good.
Mm-hmm. And if you're interested in her Fae book, in the meantime, if you thought that sounded like a cool book, but you want to read her stuff now, then she publishes under Avery Ames on that.
Very cool.
Okay, well, y'all need to check these things out. It sounds very cool.
Great book. I'm very excited to have it on my shelf.
Good shit. I was hoping to at least say goodbye to Phoebe. Phoebe, what happened?
Back. I don't know.
Baby, come back.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm just end the pod.
Charlie, release us from this mortal coil, please.
I shall, I guess.
Phoebe's already dead.
Get it?
Yeah. Phoebe, much like Nico, has walked off to do her own thing in the shadows.
No, I think Phoebe was poisoned, but like it was her computer was poisoned by the Stoll brothers this time. So I need y'all to get out of my fucking cabin so I can walk off into the shadows,
never to be seen again,
and train with some undead
Charlie,
skeletons or something.
Right?
No, we will change our society.
Yeah, we have to keep us updated on your Ghost King arc.
Hey Matt, thanks for being our God Complex Patreon. The rest of you, step up your fucking game. My god, I was going to leave it like that, but I am not abrasive by nature. Please, it's a joke. I'm sorry. You can follow this podcast socials at Of the Eldest Gods Pod on Instagram and Tumblr, and at Of the Eldest Gods on Twitter. You can send us an iris message through oftheeldestgodspod@gmail.com. If you'd like to support us financially, join us at patreon.com/oftheeldestgods. By becoming a patron, you can join the Deus Ex Media Discord server, where you'll be able to chat with us and other listeners about episodes and anything Percy Jackson related. Our $5 patron tier also gets you access to Against All Odds, our monthly bonus show. There, we'll talk about a wide variety of topics, which usually have something to do with mythology. No promises. You can check out our merch store on Redbubble to find custom designs made by Charlie. Or if you cannot or do not want to support us financially, we'd really appreciate a rating, a review, or letting your friends and followers know how much you love the podcast. That really helps. You can find me, Raye, at HeyHeyRaye, spelled R-A-Y-E, on Twitter. If you want to hear more from me, check out Barbie Movie Slap, a podcast where my co-host Ted and I discuss Barbie's cinematic universe. That podcast Twitter is at Barbie Slaps.
And you can follow me, Charlie, at GreenPixie12 on most platforms, but on Twitter I'm at GreenPixie123, which I'm totally not salty about. I also have an art Instagram at GreenPixieDraws. I sometimes do the YouTube thing on my channel, Charlie Mack. That's Mack. Our music was written by Isabel Strauss-Riggs and recorded and edited by Ian M. Riggs. You can find Izzy at Kane_I, that's I as in the body part, on Instagram and Twitter. She also currently makes video essays on the YouTube channel Kane I. Feel free to message her about making music for your project or editing your podcast. Of the Oldest Gods is proud to be part of Deus Ex Media, which features great podcasts like Content and Capable that follows Sam as he tries to figure out what it truly means to adults.
Have you ever gotten so distracted in Stardew Valley that you forgot to sleep? Have you realised that you have a whole room in your house full of dolls? Or have you even bored your friends to sleep talking about your passion? Well then, Content Capable is the podcast for you. Join me, Sam, as I chat to people passionate about what they do, asking questions about how they fell in love with their passion, what they do, and how it interacts with their day-to-day lives. Catch the podcast every Monday as I find out what makes someone tick, all while gleaning interesting and insightful life lessons along the way. There'll be laughs, a bit of crying, a whole lot of conversations, and we learn just a little bit more about the world around us.
Of the Eldest Gods is based on the series by Rick Riordan. Right now, we are discussing Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Remember to follow us on your favorite podcatcher and meet us back here every Thursday.
I've said it over me genuinely being like, I really don't have that much to say about Castor and Pollux, and then immediately being like, okay.
That's so on brand for you, though.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
There's a great outtakes episode of ours where I went on a rant about Rome for literally 40 minutes straight.
I think what y'all need to do is y'all need to, like, make those outtakes into bonus episodes on, like, a Patreon or something. Because I would pay money just to listen to, like, these.
Like, would you though? I don't know. It just me, like, devolving into madness slowly.
I would.
Like, and another thing.
I invited you on this podcast. I am here for this bullshit.
Gaius Julius Caesar.
Deus Ex Media.